The June Legendary banner is finally here, and I'm excited to see who we actually get. If it's going to be a predictable one with like male Corrin or maybe Soren, or if we're going to get another like wild card Legendary like we got with Hinoka. Either way, let's jump in, find out what we're dealing with this month. What? What? Are you kidding me right now? We get Legendary Guinivere before we get Legendary Alencia or Corrin or Soren or like Camilla even? Okay, what the heck? This is they obviously don't have many choices. And Radiant Oriella. Okay, so we have a Slaying, we have effective against magic foes just like her base weapon. We have +5 to all stats if either the foe initiates combat or they have 75% or more HP. She gets 20% true damage based off her resistance, and she reduces damage by 20% of her res. So that's flat damage reduction. That's a damage reduction that cannot be pierced. That's extremely powerful. She gets inflict special cooldown charge -1, so it's essentially she gets guard, and then she also disables adaptive damage. This is a pretty interesting weapon. So obviously she wants to be a mage tank. That is like her main role she's going to be. She's obviously going to be able to put out some damage as well, right? You can't really underestimate 20% true damage based off of resistance. It's very, very powerful. But that flat damage reduction definitely leans to her being more of like a mixed phase tank or like a purely enemy phase mage tank. Very, very interesting. I think this is already pretty good. She doesn't have exactly like amazing amount of stats in her weapon compared to some units nowadays, like Lear or something like that, who just get like a billion speed. So that is something to consider. Also, as a mage, she doesn't get access to things like Battle Astra or Godlike Reflexes. So that's also something to consider as well. But she does get that flat damage reduction based off her resistance, which is really, really strong. So that's probably gonna be enough to carry her. And then you can use more of an offensive special or even a healing special. Then we have Speed Res Finish 4. We have Null Sea Disrupt 4, the new B skill. Inflicts attack and speed -4 on foe, neutralizes effects that prevents units counterattacks, and reduces damage from both attack by 30% during combat. Wow, that's actually really, really good. Like you get damage reduction stats and just like Null Sea Disrupt. That's awesome. That's a nice solid upgrade. And it's definitely gonna be something you're gonna want on your Null Sea tanks or your Null Sea like Vantage units, right? I think Null Sea has definitely come back into the meta quite a bit now, just because healers got buffed so much, right? We have Fallen Maria all over the place. We have Duo Elise, who is like the main target, just like being annoying as hell. And so being able to put Null Sea Disrupt on like Fallen Byleth or like some other like Omni tanks who have open B slots really does allow you to like counter those type of teams. So I think that's really, really cool. I think that's a nice upgrade. And then we have Burden's New Way, her preference C skill. Restore 7 HP to allies within 3 spaces of unit after combat. Okay. Is that out? This is interesting because I don't know if that means after her combat or after every combat. Like if they get into combat, does it restore 7 HP to all allies within 3 spaces? Or is it only for her? Like is it like Celine's effect or is it different? If unit is within 3 spaces of an ally, grants all stats +5 to unit during combat, grants special cooldown charge +1 to unit per attack, and restores 7 HP to unit after combat. Okay, I think this is okay. I don't think this is like an amazing preference skill. Obviously, it does provide all the healing she's really going to need to be that tank, right? You're not going to need to run like Mystic Boost or even like Noontime in her special slot or anything like that. Between Speed Res Finish 4 and then her preference C skill, she has plenty of healing, so she's going to be very, very healthy and be able to do a lot of stuff. The extra stats is obviously very nice. It's going to fix that problem I was talking about earlier where she didn't have as much speed as I was hoping. So being able to have +10 speed essentially just from her base kit is really, really good, and that's going to help her a ton. And then also getting cooldown charge +1 is nice. It's going to allow her to use something like an Iceberg, right, so that she can get those big hits off and actually secure kills. So I don't think it's a bad preference C skill, but I don't think it's like insane, right? I don't think it's like ridiculously broken. I think like, you know, something like Hinoka's preference C skill is definitely better than this, and so many other preference skills as well, I think. Okay, let's talk about Guinivere's roles and game modes. Now, when it comes to her role, obviously she wants to be a tank. She wants to be a mage tank in particular, right? With that effective damage and all of her kit, she's gonna be very, very powerful at just kind of taking mage hits and kind of them having them bounce off of her because of that flat damage reduction based off her resistance and all the healing needs that she's gonna be like go into fights continually and just kind of stay alive and survive. Now, she's not exactly an Omni tank, right? Because she doesn't have a close counter effect in her weapon or in her A skill, which you could remedy by putting that in her A skill, but honestly, I don't think that's the best idea, and the reason for that is she is a speed-based tank. And when it comes to speed-based tanks, you really do want to stack as much speed as possible. The speed metagame is kind of ridiculous. Like, the amount of power creep we've gotten in speed just this past year has been absolutely insane. So I don't know if you can really afford to replace Speed Res Finish 4 with a different skill. Now, maybe if they release a new version of Close Counter, kind of like how we have Distant Attack Speed Solo, right? If they did Distant like Attack Speed Close Counter, I don't know what it would be called. I guess it would be not Distant, it would be Close Attack Speed Solo or something like that. Then that would be an option. She could then become an Omni Tank and probably that will roll pretty well. But until then, I think right now her main role is just going to be that mage tank. And I think she does have the option, of course, of being a nuke as well. Now, she's not exactly built to be a nuke. She does have that damage. She does have that true damage, which is extremely powerful. But other than that, she doesn't have much going for her, right? Like, she's very much more defensively built with, like, the flat damage reduction with the guard and disabling adaptive damage. Effective damage, though, is very powerful, but when it's only against mages, it's not going to help as much because mages typically aren't the thing you're struggling to kill. It's usually like save units, right? So I think that is something to consider. I think she can fill that role, though. You could put like Special Spiral 4 in her probably and like Ruptured Sky and then watch her kill some stuff. So I think that is an option. Though in that case, you might remove her Preference C skill for something else because that definitely is a more defensive option as well. When it comes to game modes, I think that she's going to be absolutely amazing in Arena, right? She's going to be able to just sit there and just tank a whole bunch of stuff. She can probably fight things like, you know, like Duo Crom or like a lot of the other ranged nukes that you do see in Arena a lot. And she's also going to be good in Ether Raids, though I think you might have to run a near save with her until they release that new version of Close Counter, which can definitely work, but it's not always optimal in my experience. So it's definitely an option you can do, though. And with no C Disrupt, she'll do very, very well against those really annoying healers that have been just plaguing the meta lately. Okay, let's check out the rest of the banner. Okay, so when it comes to this share, I think this banner is actually pretty strong, right? On the very top, we have Colorless, and Colorless looks ridiculous, right? You have Femortis, who's one of the most meta anima defensive mythics we currently have. You have Asker, who's one of the best light mythics we currently have. And then you have our new legendary in Guinevere. So it's a very, very, very good colorless share right there. Underneath that directly is going to be red, and red is really stacked as well, right? You have two of the best legendaries in the game in Legendary Yuri and Legendary Veronica. Both of these units are extremely powerful nukes who can do a ton of damage, and they also have good fodder as well. And then underneath that, you have Alir, right? And Alir is a fantastic unit. Not only can she be an amazing like God Sword Omni Tank, but she also can be really good as like a support unit with that charge effect, and she has amazing fodder with Close Call 4. So like overall, red and colorless are just ridiculously good shares. After that, it gets a bit more iffy though. When it comes to blue, I think blue's okay, it's not bad. Chloe is actually pretty underrated. She's a very powerful like melee flyer who can serve as an Omni Tank because she also has that flat damage reduction based off resistance, which is really strong, and she can even run Guard Bearing 4, which is also really good. So I think Chloe's a really strong unit, but like her fodder isn't the best. So like if you're not a big Chloe fan, you're probably not gonna be too excited about picking her up. Joffrey is like a pretty strong melee cav, but he's not like exceptional in my opinion, and his fodder isn't very good either. And then you have Euler, who's a pretty like mid-pack light mythic, really not that great. Even I have her as like high merges, and I just don't really find much use for her because all she really does is kill things, and she's not even the best at that anymore. So she's just not fantastic in my opinion. And then finally at the very bottom, I'm gonna have green, and I think green, it depends on what you want, I guess, but green for me isn't that great. Hathor is a really strong unit. We've been having some testing with her, and she's definitely been able to perform really well, even in Summoner duels. On those like slower stall teams, she just does fantastic. And then on Ether Raid's offense, she can work really well to bust open some of those like save ball walls you'll run into. Xander is Xander. I mean, he's not a bad cav. He's not a bad axe cav by any means, but he's not like exceptional either. I think he's like pretty middle of the pack. I think Personally, I prefer like Harmonic Roy, Summer Dimitri, and we even just got Summer Ephraim, and I think all three of those units are just better than Xander. So picking up merges for him really isn't like the most ideal thing unless you already are merging him up, or he's one of your favorites, of course. And then lastly, we have Hell. Hell is just a giant dud in the green pool. You do not want to pick up Hell no matter what. Like, she is just terrible. She's a terrible defensive mythic. She's complete garbage. The only redemption I could see for Hell is that she does have Guard Bearing 3, so you can use her as fodder for that for Guard Bearing 4. And then she also is going to get a remix and refine probably in like 4 to 5 months, somewhere in that range. So maybe she gets a giant update and she actually becomes good, but I'm not really expecting much, to be honest. Okay, let's move on to the Water Legendary tier list, and this time for sure it's actually a Water Legendary and not a Fire Legendary like last time. So for Guinevere, I'm going to put her in the S rank. probably right below Azura. And the reason for that is very simple. I think that she is a bit niche in my opinion. Mage tanks are really cool, but you really do need to combine them with like a near save to take full advantage of them, or you really do need like a new powerful close counter to take advantage of them. They're just not used everywhere, and then typically they don't perform as well as like melee tanks. And the reason for that is that they don't have access to godlike reflexes or vital astra or all the other stupid effects that really make melee tanks really powerful. She also can't use a defensive special, which could also hold her back. Now, I do think she's going to be really strong, don't get me wrong. I think she's going to be amazing. Flat damage reduction is something you can never underestimate. It just does so much for a unit, right? We saw Brave Dimitri go from like a terrible unit to like one of the best units in the entire meta right now. And that's just based off defense, right? So she's going to be able to do that with resistance. And she's also going to be able to pack of quite the punch. So I think she's going to be really good. It's just that she's not going to be universally good. Like, I wouldn't expect to see her in every single game mode, though I could definitely see her being used a lot in her bonus season in either raids, and in arena I'm sure she'll be very annoying to deal with. Okay, let's move on to the final question, should you pull? And this banner is honestly pretty stacked. We have some great pros going here. We have an absolutely ridiculous color share that is just, which is just stupid value. Definitely something worth considering. You get a meta offense and defense mythic, and then you even get the new legendary who's pretty cool, which will help you score optimally in arena for the next month. Then we have an amazing red shear with two of the most powerful meta nukes in the game right now, and great fodder. Now when it comes to cons, of course, the green pool is not amazing in my opinion. Hater is there, which is a good unit, but everything else is kind of meh. And then the same thing can be kind of said with blue, where it's not a terrible share, but there's not really much value you're getting that is guaranteed, right? You're not getting any kind of merges for your mythics, you're not getting merges for legendaries, and the fodder isn't that great as well. The other things to consider are always the other banners coming up. We have the second summer banner coming very soon, and hopefully it can be engaged. I know I've been saying that for literally months now, and I'm very tired of saying it, so hopefully we can just break that curse and we can get engaged soon. That's definitely something to consider as well. And the last thing I really want you to consider is that Choose Your Legends is not that far away. We are only about like less than 2 months away from Choose Your Legends. So if you're a big fan of one of the CYL winners, maybe you should be saving orbs already just so that you can make sure that you can get those units with as many merges as you want. Personally, I will be summoning on this banner very heavily. I need to get my Asker and my Fomortis to +10. They're both at +8 right now, so I just need 2 copies of each. And I also wouldn't mind picking up a copy of Guinevere and maybe even dipping into red a bit to get some more merges for Veronica and Yuri, and some fodder from Malir. I definitely think this banner has a ton of value if you are willing to spend a good amount of orbs on it. But now I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of this banner? What do you think of Legendary Guinevere? Did it surprise you as much as it surprised me? And are you going to be pulling on this banner? If you are, who are you going for? Make sure to drop a comment down below letting me know all about what your plans are for this banner, and make sure to tune into my summoning session, which will be dropping right after the banner comes out. We're going to go big, probably spending like 300 to 400, maybe even 500 orbs on this banner, and definitely looking forward to it. As always, I'd love to thank my members for all their constant support, and if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. This has been Oblivion, catch you later.